So back at Monte Sahaja to meet the wonderful Mooji. It was about 3 years ago, I guess, we met.
Yes. And I believe we got interview here also.
Yeah.
Maybe not this particular space, but it was in Chai Temple, no?
This is the cafe, or what? What's it?
It was, we call it the Chai Temple. And it was, we call it temple because in cafes usually people feel it's to talk. So we said, Mr. Temple. And it's quite near to the Shiva temple. So sometimes when people would go there or on the way there, they could stop, or on the way down, they could stop here. So it was made for that kind of space.
Yeah.
And also for the look. I'm sitting here looking out the window and just noticing how beautiful view it is from here. I've not been in this room now for quite some time.
Yeah, a little chilly today, but we're comfortable.
Yes, yeah.
I'm here to talk to you, first of all, about stress. I do a podcast called Life Without Stress. Is it possible, you think, a life without stress?
Yes, we cannot guarantee that moments of stress would not come, because it doesn't announce itself. Sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we can experience some moments of some sense of stress or discomfort or whatever. Stress is a strong word, and many people are familiar with that term now. But it is possible. Of course it is possible, because stress is not original to our being,
No?
No. Stress comes when we are somehow a bit out of alignment with our own natural way. We have a range of possibilities in the way that we live. And when we are more self-aware, and by self-aware I don't mean just aware that you're in this body, but aware that awareness is your fundamental nature, which these days I feel the vast majority, perhaps at all time throughout human history, the majority of people were not living in that level of self-awareness. We were aware of ourselves at the body-mind level, that we are people in bodies and so on. But that is not the fullness of what we are. And but we accept personal identity as the fact of our existence, but it is already a very contracted state that we, a construct which we have accepted, because in our culture generally it is not questioned. We live on the premise that we are a person, a particular kind of person. We are our body, we are our gender, we are the income, our culture, our whatever like that. And these are associations that can be formed within our being, but they're not permanent. And as we all see, you don't have to be spiritual to see that our the way in which we perceive of ourselves is constantly changing. There's nothing stable there. You see, when we're living at that layer or level of self-awareness, meaning at the body-mind level only, and not aware of the deeper space behind it, the space of being or pure consciousness, of course we will not be, we'll experience all the things that we think we should, like happiness, states of happiness and peace, of love, all these things we will experience, of joy and compassion even, and so on, but they will be limitedly experienced.
So is stress a sign then that I'm believing that I'm a person, or I'm believing that I'm something that I'm not? Could you use it as a sign?
Well, later on, as we come to know about it, because like I say, largely we live in an identity that is unquestioned. So to say that people would not think, oh, because I'm stressful, I'm not really in my true, they just blame the outer.
Yeah.
It's because of the environment, or, my job is very stressful, my family life is very stressful, and my health caused me stress and so on. So we would start there. We'd start by first looking, the environment is not good. We would not start by thinking my inner environment is not good. Or at least we'll think my inner environment is the cause of something outer. But truly, life is lived from the inside out, not from the outside in.
So you start blaming the neighbors, the traffic, the boss, and how do you get rid of that then? When is blaming? When do you stop blaming? Some people blame their whole life until their death.
Yes. Well, that is really a key itself, that you can, if you develop an attitude of blaming, or let me put it another way, if we lack self-awareness, if we have not developed self-awareness, and then the opposite of that, which is the reason for my unhappiness is something other than me, you can develop a blindness as to your own capacity and the deeper truth of yourself. It feels like, automatically I would be right if these things were not wrong. But actually nothing in itself, I sometimes say to some of my students, well, all of them actually, that the meaning of anything doesn't exist in the thing, but in the mind of the one perceiving it. You see?
I give it meaning.
Yes, you give it the meaning, and it's not that you even intend to give it meaning, just the force of conditioning makes it very easy to see things in a certain way. We develop a certain way of looking, and nothing reflects back to yourself. It's like, this is the thing that's wrong, and that is the thing that's wrong. And if we have this idea, then soon you're going to run out. Well, I don't think we can run out of things to blame, actually. You can go like that. But yeah, what we miss also in not being self-aware is that we are deeply unhappy and unable to change that, because the things we blame are still there.
Yeah, they don't disappear.
They don't just go away.
Yeah.
And if you, I gave an example once, it is coming up now, that suppose someone was a serious drug taker, you know? And so they are in an environment, all the people around them know that they take drugs now. They can't find a job, they can't, it's so easy. They have become a little bit almost merged in that kind of culture. And they have a little moment of some strong feeling inside, I need to get away from here. Or they are told it's really best you get away from here, start your life afresh and so on. And then they move. And they go to another country where nobody knows them, to make a fresh start, and go to a small town or something like this, and rent an apartment or whatever like that, and start to feel good about it, no? But because the energy, the memory, some deep impression, some print is inside their psyche, you see. Sooner or later they may find that they're walking on the road and someone comes and says, hey, you want to get something?
So the environment doesn't matter if I choose to go sit on a mountain for half a year, maybe?
It may. It's not as simple as that, because it all depends. No one can totally predict. It may be the right time that you make a move, and that move was initiated by a deeper awareness. Let me call it grace for the moment, and I may explain what that means later. And somehow it's just your time in life for a change. And it may be that you move away, and maybe not even willingly. Circumstances compel that a move happens, and you go to a place, and although you have that background, you keep meeting good people, and good things happen, and someone introduces you to, listen, oh, you live here? Yes, we're right next door to a meditation center here. So, oh, meditation, what's that about? I'm going there now. Why don't you just come and sit? You don't have to teach you anything. Come and sit, and just sit for a while. Something that may be the beginning of a new transformation in your life. We don't know, you see. But generally speaking, if you carry the odor inside your being, people pick up on it, We are very intuitive, and sometimes it's not that people just know. It's like something propels them to you, compels them to go, hey man, you want to do this, and think, wow man, what's this? I don't do this. And you go away somewhere, and it keeps going with you, you see. It can happen. I don't want to be depressive about it, I mean, because the possibility of positive change is always with you. Because I would say A human life is built for the expression of grace, of a higher expression of consciousness. We are by nature happy in our core being. Not that the very fact that we are searching for happiness is based on two things. One is that you are already unhappy, or the second thing is that it's a natural yearning when things have gone off. You know, you're yearning to go back to something original. You know?
To be whole again.
To be whole again. Yes,
but can real joy and peace be found in the world, or do you? Let me phrase the question otherwise. Do you have to search for peace and joy in the world first, and then find it in yourself, or can it be what do you say?
Instantly.
Instantly.
Yeah, both, but more permanently in yourself. You may have moments of happiness like this, but the world, meaning external to your inner self, cannot just make you happy. But we have to try also. You know? Maybe we have ideas that maybe to be famous will make you happy, or to marry the right person will make you happy, or to have enough money will make you happy, or to have enough respect will make you happy. And people have really gone for these things, and then found that, well, they have the beautiful house, but they're still not happy. They have all the money, but still not happy. You see, or for a while we may convince ourselves we're happy, you know, but you can't do that for too long. It's too raw a thing to keep lying to yourself about. You feel lonely. If I'm so happy, I got nobody to celebrate my happiness with.
Yeah.
You go to the cat, even the cat will maybe leave you or something. I don't know.
That's that good. Could you say then that you bring joy and peace into the world? Is it something you bring to the party?
You have to first find it in yourself. And some people, I would say, we are walking, there's a field of 100 people, but they're not at the same place of inner maturity. Some people are much more mature in the sense that they are at peace. They're not looking for peace. They're not looking for happiness. They have reached a place of happiness. And others may think, wow, this guy is just naturally happy. Well, he's naturally happy, but may have been unhappy before. May they have found the happiness within themselves, or the happiness which is synonymous with your being. They may have discovered that. Happiness you cannot make. You can only discover it, you see. You can find pleasure outside, but happiness is an inner quality, a joy that is synonymous and very much resonant with your own inmost being. That's why if you're happy, nobody need to tell you you're happy. You naturally know. Yeah. Also, if you're sad, also, of course.
Is that the meaning of Sat Chit Ananda? Is the Ananda is the happiness I can remember?
Yes, bliss, joy, happiness, Ananda. If we're using terms like that, it is good for the listener to understand what it means, because it's this term Satyadananda is a Sanskrit term, ancient, one of the most ancient languages, and very, very much one of the few languages that was spiritually based, And Sat really points to our existence, our natural existence, not just biological existence, our soul existence. Meaning it exists and exists continuously, you see.
Being.
Yeah, being. You can use being. Chid means conscious or consciousness, and that we are conscious existence, we are consciousness. And Ananda means joy. So when we are aware naturally of our existence, most people think, well, of course I know I'm existing. But you may only be aware that you're existing as a body-mind, as a person. But the real Sat means to exist consciously of yourself. So the Chid, the consciousness of your existence, equals bliss. You become blissful in that. So that doesn't come with just conscious of yourself as a person, but conscious of yourself beyond form or shapes or concepts. And a field of pure awareness is here. And it is totally experienceable, and I would even say a non-dual experience, meaning not something experiencing bliss. If you are someone experiencing bliss, the bliss will be as impermanent as your someoneness. Anything that you take yourself as, whatever you experience will be shaped by the limitation of that identity.
And does it have a flavor, a taste, that real being that I am? How can I make the difference between thinking, yeah, I can make the difference between thinking I'm a person and thinking I'm consciousness, but could you maybe tell us something about the flavor, the taste of it?
Well, at first, it feels like a taste, like other tastes. It feels like this because when you take yourself to be the body-mind, all you're doing in life is tasting, different experiences.
Yeah.
Try this one, try that
Yeah.
one, try. We're actually tasting. But we are not as yet self-tasting. You're tasting other. You can do that through the senses, because the senses have their sense objects as well. There's, so, and everything is going out for contact, out. Everything is going out. So we're tasting phenomenality. You're tasting things that are seemingly outside yourself. So we have the saying in spiritual terminology, you may have heard, you want to taste the honey, you don't want to be the honey. Yeah, we want to taste the honey. So everything a taste. What's the next taste, you see? You want to taste this, want to taste what it's like to be in love. You want to taste what it's like to, there are some things you don't want to taste. You don't want to taste what it's like to be dead. No, you want to taste what it's like to be, that speaks through the senses and through imagination. So everything is tasting, you see? So always is tasting other. So what about consciousness? Can consciousness has a taste? Because consciousness is that which causes taste and causes experiencing. But does it itself have a taste? We say, the tongue can taste so many things, but can it taste itself? Or the eyes can see so many things. Actually, it's the mind, can see so many things, but can it taste? Can it see its own self? You see, so when we begin to bring these questions becoming more alive and interesting to someone, is because their attention is beginning to be able to turn inwardly. And that is something very significant for human happiness, is that the momentum mostly is going out for other, and less around here. And the reason why we tend not to look here is because you take for granted that here is what you know, and the rest is what you want to enjoy. But when the attention turns heartward, not just outward, but heartward, then those kind of questions are coming, you see. You may be able to hear something like, okay, you are tasting so many things, but does yourself have a taste? Oh, whoa. Oi.
Headache.
I am not interested in that kind of question that just makes me feel uncomfortable or whatever like this. But gradually, without effort, some of these pointers begin to touch something inside you. And it may not just be intellectual. It may just be a certain kind of feeling or a doubt or a curiosity. But already the juices are flowing inwardly, you see. And you may find that without consciously thinking, I'm going to go and do this, you find that you're encountering maybe someone else, someone outside of your usual field of contact, who may say something to you, and you say, whoa, man, I never really thought of it like that. And gradually, your orientation is turning a bit more inwardly. It doesn't mean that you have to chop away outside, but it's now including a more internal awareness. And if it arises within you, first of all, the person is not responsible for that. It could just be that at a deeper level than your personality is aware of, at a soul level, something in the universe, has brought you to the time for growing. Just like if your next stage of growth, you don't know where it's going. It's simply unfolding.
Yeah.
So there can be an inner unfolding also, where you suddenly, or somehow you become aware that I kind of am interested in finding something out that perhaps was new for you, and your friends may say, well, hey, that's not your thing, but this orientation has begun, or at least an interest, a curiosity. But it's that the universe is bringing it to you. Your higher self is calling, let's use another language, your inner self, your inner being is calling your outer attention in, you see? And it's not that the person, oh, the person's, no, the person also is equivalent to the outer attention, is warming to being a little bit more introspective. And this can come in many ways. It can be initiated by an accident, or you may have an operation, or you read a book or something, even watch a movie, or meet someone that triggers a little bit of a kind of the beginnings of a little miracle, but it's not recognized as a miracle. Just a change in feeling about something, and an interest is slowly awakening in you, and you're drawn towards this more and more. And it's a universal movement, actually, that your mind is more turned towards. And it's not just for intellectual satisfaction. It may seem to begin like that, but soon you find it's something deeper. Your full being is being called into that exploration, you see, like that.
And with you, it was a prayer that gave you that.
Yes, the kind of kick.
Yeah, yeah. Is it a famous prayer? Can we find it somewhere, or?
You know, nothing is ever in the outer form of it only. Because, you know, before this, I had also prayed. I was brought up in an environment where prayer is not a strange thing, you know. So we pray sometimes, we pray at meal times. You know, certainly when I was younger, we brought up like that. But as I moved into teenage experiencing, you know, you start to explore the world a bit more and find out a bit more about who you want to be and this type of thing. But at the stage you're talking about, actually, no, I was not consciously thinking about these things, about God anymore, and life, and in a deeper exploration in the way that I'm talking now. I was more interested in exploring, like, you know, martial arts or painting or something like this, like many people, no? But on this day, what happened, it was not a day apart from some other days that preceded it, that I'd met someone. I had no way of thinking, how did that come about? It just happened that I came home one day from setting up an exhibition we were planning to put on, and my partner said to me, oh, some guy came earlier and noticed your stained glass in the window, and, you know, said he would like to meet who made it, you know. So I told him that you won't be here until about 7, and he said, could he come back? And that's how I met this man I called Michael. His name is Michael. And surely he came around about that time, and I spoke with him, you know, talked. He introduced himself very quickly. You know, I live very near to you, and lived in a room that we use as a church. So really, I'm not so unaccustomed to these ideas, because in Jamaica we have many churches like that. They meet in any kind of place. And introduced himself as I'm a Christian, and a practicing Christian, live there, and it's just 3 minutes walk from where I am. That wasn't so interesting for me. It was just that something about his presence, and I wasn't thinking, oh, your presence is different. I just enjoyed his company, and he talked and like that. But over the next maybe 5 or 6 weeks, meeting him several times, you know, I found that I was having a certain kind of conversations with him that is not the usual conversations you have with friends, you know. He was talking about the life of Christ and this kind of thing, you know. But I was not challenged by it. I wasn't bored by it. I was actually quite gripped by it. I can't remember any specific thing, but the way he spoke and made it so relatable. Natural, you know. Yeah. And it didn't feel like he was working on me. Maybe he was, and I was just not picking up on that. But he was just talking, and I asked questions, and I became more and more interested in it. So on the day that you mentioned now, it was on a Sunday, and he came with another friend, and I was there with my friend also. And we had a nice time talking. At the end, about sort of 7 o'clock, he said, okay, thank you, it's really nice, and, you know, good to come. And I said, okay, Michael, thank you. And he said he was about to leave, and I said, Michael, you know, you know, when you pray again, will you pray for me? he said, sure, but we can do that just now. And that, it was very, that contact was, oh, I said, okay. I wouldn't say intense, but it was sort of refreshing for me.
Oh.
You know, that it was so immediate, so available. I said, well, why not now? I thought, well, yeah, why not now? You know, so I didn't have an appointment for prayer. I said, why not now? And he came over and he prayed over me, and like this, put his hand on my head and prayed. And but after he finished, short prayers. We never made long prayers, short prayers. And myself made a short prayer, just like it was just a move forward, an opening. You know, please, you know, enter into my heart or help me. You know, prayers like this, very simple. And then I said, oh, thank you, Michael. And he said, oh, yeah, it's very good, thank you. Well, we had a hug at the door. He said goodbye and he went. And so I mention this very often because I often tell this story. I felt it was a very significant turning point in my life. Because after he left, I was almost alone in the house where I lived. Mickey was there, my friend. But I just felt this wonderful, beautiful quality of aloneness. Not loneliness, just really aloneness. And it felt wonderful, such peace, it was so peaceful. And I could say that, yes, I've experienced peace before, but this was really like, you know, like I could feel a peace in my body, like very, like, and it was a wonderful feeling. I feel anyone who comes to this place recognizes it immediately and just know that everything is fine. It's that kind of feeling, you know.
Sounds great.
It's so I actually I didn't want to do anything. I just felt so happy with a feeling of completeness and contentment, and just I would say gratitude also, but very quiet, nothing excitable. And I sat like this for quite a long time. I felt very much at peace. So much so that as the night came more towards the close of night, and a little hint of tiredness was coming, I didn't want to go to sleep because I felt that if I went to sleep,
it would go away.
It would go away.
Yeah.
It would be the end. I didn't want it to end.
I can imagine.
But I went to bed, and when I woke up in the morning, it had not gone away. And that was something, you know. And I was so happy. I was so happy. I was happy for that also. I was happy, but I was happy that it's still here.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of that peace that I experienced then is still here after all this time. Yeah. I've had many experiences, much maturing in many different ways, but the fundamental peace has been here.
It hasn't left you. And in Course in Miracles, they tell me I can ask the Holy Christ for help.
Yes.
Is that maybe what you did at that moment in that prayer, or?
Yes. You know, whether you want to say, you know, I ask Christ, you know, for help. I ask God for help. I open to the universe. It's the same thing. It's not the name, you know. It doesn't itself have a name, but it presents a name. Any name that you feel represents purity or God or truth or like this will do. You will not say, oh, you used the wrong name, you're not talking to me. No, it's your heart determines that you're searching for something really high and pure. So in whatever name you call him by, he will respond to that name because it's beyond name. You're not praying just to a name, you're praying to that supreme consciousness. What you feel is something higher than yourself. So in whatever name you will come through that name. You see, like this. So I believe that was your question. You said, yeah, you say anyone can ask. Anyone can
ask for help.
Yes, yes. You know what the important thing is your openness. Your openness is your power bank. If someone is open and whatever you really, really ask for, it begins to generate a response to you. And this is something, I'm very happy to be sharing this with you, you know, that because people may not realize that. We may believe that fundamentally something is wrong with us. I would say, no, fundamentally everything is right with you. You see, what happens is that our idea of ourself begins with so much limitation. You see, you think you're just this body. This body is limited. You're just your upbringing. Upbringing is limited. You're male or female. That is also a limitedness, because your consciousness is beyond male and female. So if you're functioning like nowadays, you can go to internet and they say, okay, this is a cream for women, this cream for men. You see, this makes it's a bit silly, actually, you know. So our consciousness has become compartmentalized to function within the limited paradigm we have of who we are. So whatever shape you take, you're functioning within the limitation of that shape, and all shapes are limited. So some of us, we are saturated with concepts. Some people have too much concepts, and so they're just like a pinball against their concepts. They can't come out of this. There's always something in the end blocking your flow. There's something inside us that just flows. And that flowing, even, which is, we love the flow, that flows, begins from and continues within a greater stillness, which you may call the Supreme Lord or the universe, God or something, no? But your flow, which you may call the life you experience, that flow is very, very much depending upon, if you have a narrow river bank with lots of stone, the flow is very noisy. But if the flow is open, you almost don't hear it. It can be so quiet. And so I could liken that when we are flowing in your being without the intrusion or the obstruction of so many concepts, so many things has to be right for you before you can be like that. And you see, that is very much a contraction of the banks of your river. And if it goes like this, everything is crashing, you see. So something opens up more. The more open you are, the less rigid, the less structure you are, the more you're like more spirit again. So you can have the most uncomfortable looking body, but if your spirit is freed means not imprisoned within a cage of concepts. If you're more free, then you're flowing, your life flows. And the flowing is not necessarily, it's in every way. Physically it's flowing also.
But it's not a doing.
Huh?
It's not a doing.
No, it's an action, but it's not a doing. It can be an action, but it's not a doing. A doing implies an intention, but a flow is just universal. It's harmony, it just flows.
Yeah.
And in this flow, all things are happy, actually. Yeah. And even the things that were, you know, this is the beauty. When this flow I'm speaking about, it's a flow of grace, a flow of spirit, a flow of beingness, is very contagious, actually. To be in a space, an environment, or in the what you may call in the energetic field of one who is stilled within themselves, you know. It illumines and brightens and uplifts the environment. You may find that you had a bit of a heavy state of feeling, but in this environment somebody feels like it's lifted, like a cloud is lifted. And that, whether it's coming from a person or from the walls of a temple or a church or what, doesn't matter, you know, because this spirit beingness is universal. So again, so what blocks me from it, somebody may ask. I said, when you open to it, you say, but how do I open? Actually, there's no technique. You just, if you say, like we are speaking, and you feel, I would like to be open to this, help me. And I say, in your very words, it's coming in. You see, like this. And certainly you can receive prayer, like I have a prayer that goes without words. May all beings be happy. And, you know, whoever you meet, even someone who has a bad intention towards you, I cover them in that light of grace. Not that they will like me, but just that they'll be happy. Because when you're happy, you like everything. You know? Yeah. Not you like as in, you're not a fluffy liking, but you are accepting of your environment, the trees, everything is touched by that joy. You know, I feel human beings can learn that, and in times, especially these days, where so many things seem to be contracted in the outer world, is offering an opportunity to open the doors to your inner world, because the inner is vaster than the outer. And I don't know if we have time to go into that, but it's just, we feel sometimes that myself is as far as my fingertip, as high as top of my head, but it's not like that. Your being, your real being, is universal consciousness. And when we are brought up in such limited ideas about ourselves, it's very difficult to expand our heart to say, embrace what I've just said. So what do you mean universal? I mean, like, you're over there, I'm here, we're not the same. So from this layer of bodies, we are different. We differ in expression even, but I say we're one in essence. I don't want to teach this and spend time teaching that, because it's not easily graspable if already we're impregnated with so many ideas.
Yeah, so it's not a concept.
No, it's not a concept. Not a concept.
But it is to be discovered. And some concepts are useful for breaking down other concepts. Some concepts behave like an enzyme, a spiritual enzyme, that breaks down much more difficult concepts and let them flow again. That's what is important.
I once heard the thorn to remove the other thorn.
Yes,
right.
That's true. That's an example that I like very much.
About Papaji, one of his books is called Nothing Ever Happened. And when I hear such a title, it makes me smile. I don't know why. How is that for you?
Let's start with what you said. You said you mentioned a book about Papaji and about his life, actually. The book is called Nothing Ever Happened. It's like a ridiculous title for people of the world. I think, what the hell is he talking about? Nothing ever happened. You see, that it's in some way it can attract people, because it just don't make sense in the usual usage of the mind.
It makes you curious.
Yeah, so what do you mean nothing ever happened? No? What he means is that actually whatever happens also dissolve. Like, let's say yesterday, like now we're sitting here, I have you, Patrick, in front of me like this. I can see your eyes. I have a feeling of your presence, and we're sitting in this place. The heater is here, wonderful landscape. All of that is sensed inside my being and arises as a sort of a quiet joy. Okay? And that's a truth. There's nothing else I'm experiencing at the moment. Everything has been experienced within the focus of my attention. And yet we will talk about this in maybe something called a tomorrow. In the now of a tomorrow, you may say, hey, you remember when we were sitting together yesterday and so on? But the memory cannot recreate the actuality of the moment. No? You see? Now, everything here may change, no? But your beingness hasn't changed like that. So he says, we're talking about this thing. Yes, this thing happened, and this thing happened, and what's going to happen, and so on. But none of that is really tangible. It's momentary. So the mind tends to encase that in memory and hold it as though it's something solid and reliable. But it is only an idea of something. So what Papaji is speaking, nothing ever happened. No? Nothing ever happened. He didn't say nothing ever happened. He said nothing ever happened. Is that what the name of the book is? Is it Happened?
Yes.
Or happen? Happened means everything that happened, just like the clouds in the sky, It, you say, wow, look, so beautiful, so beautiful. Wow, I love that cloud. I run inside to get my camera, come back out, and it's already changed. So he's saying that everything is momentary, and for the pure being, nothing sticks. Even memory, which is our link with time, itself also is fading also gradually. No, you said nothing ever happened, and that should not be for people who live in the past. Sometimes we know people whose life is only about the past. It's about past. So it's not even an actuality. The actuality is only the memory, which is a subjective interpretation of what happened. They're clinging to this. And in clinging to something, you miss the nowness or freshness of what is here, which itself will soon be gone also. So what is really here is not in the framework of time, of past, present, and future. It sees time. Whatever you can perceive or experience is like clouds passing in the infinite and unchanging sky. You see? The book is hinted at that. So although it's funny, the book is a record of Papaji's life. He's saying, even this, don't cling to this. It may only if it gives you a fragrance to that which doesn't change. And if you read the book, it'll come to start to show you about that which is unchanging in the face of that which is changeful. You see, like that. I feel one would have to read a good way into the book to begin to feel that, wow, so that's what he means. Maybe it doesn't give it away from the first or second page. And it was not in some way a strategy. Perhaps the title came after. He said, yeah, nothing really happened. After all of this, you can throw that away. He said, why did we start in the first place? It has some contribution to the point he's making. And what is the point? That you, in your heart alone, is the eternal. Your actions are transient, you know. That's not to say we should reject them as rubbish. No, they have their play, and they are all connected. Also, they are connected to the unchanging somehow. They are one. But one is your temporary, time-bound manifestation, manifesting in your timeless and eternal being. And this timeless and eternal being is what the goal of spirituality, of all true teachings, is pointing you to. And it's not about learn, learn, learn. We may start off thinking we have to learn, learn, learn. But it's more about discover, 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 recognize, recognize, recognize. And that becomes easier with each one, because if you have to learn it, some people say, I'm not clever enough to learn all that stuff. But when you are simply recognizing, you're experiencing as you're recognizing, rather than putting it up into the attic, you're recognizing and you're experiencing. And so, whoa, whoa, you know, whoa. So what are you seeing? Nothing really, but I'm so used to object seeing and putting things into shapes. But here, it's not that. I'm not seeing in a physical, phenomenal way. I'm understanding that what is really here is not attached to anything that it projects. And in recognizing this, there's a tremendous aliveness, a stillness, not what the mind would expect. Because the mind would probably say it's dead then. If there's nothing there to measure and to experience in a diverse, it must be dead and boring. And you say, no, you cannot describe this. You cannot describe what is the core of a human being.
So enlightenment, it's not an ending point. Is it a starting point? Is it from where it starts?
Yeah, enlightenment sound like a thing that happens. Yeah. You know, it's like a happening.
In time and space.
But that which we are enlightened about is not in time and space. Enlightenment may speak about the moment of an impact of seeing that collapses our structure in some way, not in a violent way, in a beautiful way. It's like a twist of consciousness or attention, and the old perspective is changed, and for the highest. And sometimes we are afraid, because when we have a structured sense of identity, that structured identity feeds on other structure, needs structure, like food, like the body needs food. But when you come to see that both the structure and what the structure desires are all just ephemeral, being seen in an unchanging completeness, that moment of that seeing may be called the moment of awakening. But that which we are awakened to is ever awake. It didn't wake up. And even some would say it's beyond, including myself, it's beyond awaking or sleeping. What I call the what is, or the isness. It simply is. And we don't, if we try to imagine that, it will freak you out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's the most natural thing about you. Is that, and that is the whole mystery and the paradox of awakening to what we are. From the mind, it seems impossible, and it is impossible. A person cannot do it, you see. But the thing is, how can I do it then? I said, don't worry about that. You know, first, sit down, have a cup of tea, and I want to take away the fear about it. It's nothing. You're not going to leave from here and go over there to be enlightened. You know, like this. It's only coming to the recognition of what is already so in you, but you have not recognized, and because of this, you have not come to your fullness of your happiness and completeness. That's why our being is so fearful, or we suffer our existence, or something like that. So, awakening or enlightenment is the fulfillment, the highest fulfillment of a human potential, or the highest attainment within the human kingdom or paradigm.
So it has never left me. What I thought.
It is you. It is you. It is you. See,
Yeah.
you see. I don't say that. I wouldn't go on the street and say, "Look, you know, all this is you," because obviously you probably get stoned or something, or at least have a few bananas thrown at you.
Yeah.
So I'm not in for that. So I'm within my own being. One is just open to whatever comes naturally. I'm not projecting any strategy in life at all. It's not needed. The great allness takes care of things by itself anyway. So if one moves in your natural rhythm, and your natural rhythm can still flow within a structure. If you have a life that has some structure, you don't have to give up structure, but your life, there's a spontaneity about you that can still be spontaneous within the tightest of structures. This is another miracle like that. You see?
Still, if you have some time, some other spiritual teachers tell me we are now in the Partivan. I'm guessing you know what that means.
No, I don't. What it means? The Partivan?
The time of the Great Awakening, the
Well,
shift in consciousness. They tell me.
No, it may be, there is no such thing that exists as a solid thing, like you're moving into a field of that. What happens is that it's a time for the potential, the possibility, the attraction to is more heightened at the moment. It's not a phenomenon outside of you.
Yeah.
It's like also by the collective impact. I don't think there's been any time where the world of human beings in the diverse expressions on different countries on this planet are all somehow in the field of the similar experiencing.
Yeah.
We used to feel very free about, thinking, well, like in 3 years I'm going to open my own business, and in about 5 years I'm going to be planning, and you plan. And something has become a bit attached to or even addicted to that kind of way of using our minds. And now it's not so easy to do that. So the mind aspect of ourself, let's say the personal, as the dreaming self, feels very tight and imprisoned. Oh no, it's so horrible, it's so horrible. But it's only our mind is suffering that. Actually, deeper down, your beingness is coming more alive. Because for the first time, you're giving attention or the possibility of awakening at a deeper level of ourself, that layer that has been somehow not sleeping, but maybe masked by a more superficial layer of personal identity, that some space, some light is opening up to that space. So we can say now we are much more available, more open to the possibility of going to higher levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
That's how I would interpret such a term. I didn't know it before like that.
Yeah.
But I've heard it expressed in other words. Yeah.
Okay. I have a few more questions from the watchers
Don't
and
rush.
listeners.
I
Oh,
understand.
thanks. Do you still have hopes and dreams? Lex wanted to know.
It's an easy one. No, I don't have any hope and dream. I don't need to. We hope when we're not living in our fullness. When you're living in your fullness, there's a trust in that even now we are living in grace, which means that grace means unmerited support, meaning that we didn't earn the support through your person, but because our existence is permeated with grace, is synonymous with grace, means that there's so much grace in our life, but you're not aware of it. You see, even the fact that you are breathing at the moment, and your mind is clear enough that we can have a dialogue of this type, and understanding happens naturally by itself, is a testimony to the beauty of consciousness. Who's operating the consciousness? You see, so that is synonymous with grace, the capacity in you, and somehow that manifests as an openness to meet life in all of its ways without being afraid. You may say, well, I don't know, but maybe I'll be afraid of that. Maybe it's going to hurt me and so on. So you take smaller steps. It's okay. But we are responding with an openness to say, I'm open to a higher level of awareness, to a purer existence, to a higher possibility, to a widening of my love and a deepening of my appreciation of all that you say, because you say that life is full of grace, that God's love permeates everything, and something feels nice about that, so I'm open up to that. So the minute you say you're open to it, already, it's already doing, not you, your mind is doing it, the grace. This is the magicality of life, that the grace itself begins to clean your house.
For free.
For free, but it is freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom is cleaning your house freely, if you're open to that. Now, of course, the mind, the kind of more doubtful mind goes, yeah, I don't believe in that nonsense. And then you close down a little bit.
Yeah.
You see? But it doesn't punish. The self, the great, the God self, it does not punish. Its ways are not vindictive. You see? It's more corrective. So what happens, even though something closes, you see? What it does is perhaps just release a little bit of your karma. The karma of your own rigidity. When you feel that, then you open a little. So sometimes suffering helps. It may look like punishment. But so many things that happen that feels very challenging and painful to us actually took us to a higher ground. But we forget. Because we look more at the instance of how this felt painful, but not to how it delivered you from a stale condition.
Yeah. So no mistakes in existence.
From God's point of view, no.
Yeah. Is ego the enemy? Arjan wants to know.
Who wants to know?
Yeah, Arjan is one who sent in
the question. Say the question again.
Is ego the enemy?
Ego is instrumental in the play of dualistic life. It's an enemy. Is it an enemy? Without ego, your powers of discernment would not get activated. Because ego, in a sense, is when we move beyond our outside of our wholeness. It cannot really happen, but experientially, because of the way of directing our choice and our energies, we decide to go into the small self, meaning that, I want this, I think, which we are meant to in this play. I'm looking at life as a kind of play, or a kind of dream. So we are dreaming this, that, we are moving in a more selfish way. I don't care about them, I just care about you. No? So that's a limiting grace, which is itself unlimited. So from this way, we bring the fruit of that ego contraction. The fruit of that is bitter. And it may take us a long time to really admit that, because once you take ego, which makes us feel very vulnerable, then you naturally tighten up to protect that vulnerability, so you become even more ego. So then at a certain point, you see, wait a second, the more I go in the way of selfishness, because selfishness is what you may call a great sin. No? We say the opposite of love, is hate, but I feel the opposite of love is selfishness. You're just concerned about your little, because it blinds us. So when we go like this, and all of us will taste sinfulness, meaning the movement away from your wholeness. So we have to experience the sense of individuality, and then to later see that to go into individuality where it becomes toxic, which means that you're only concerned about you, then that ego, that is your enemy, in a sense, meaning enemy to your fullness. Then you're going to use that pain that comes from that to somehow return to your completeness. So the ego, there cannot be no existence in the way that we know it without ego. You see, there cannot be any delusion or sinfulness without ego. When that's, can there be life without ego? Yes, there can be life without ego. Surely less of ego makes a beautiful life. Like at the moment, maybe there's a lot of ego creation in the world, and so the world is in a lot of pain. When there's a lot of love, and we see that in different parts of the world. Not all the parts of the world is the same. Some place love is more venerated. You see, compassion and care. In that part, things are bright and breathing and spacious. No? Another part is very dark and this darkness, this Mike darkness, is like a lion that goes around devouring different things around. Every part of the world tastes it. When one part of the consciousness develops the sickness or the toxicness of personhood and greed and selfishness and hatred, then that's the lion coming here, you know, and it poisons that culture. And sometimes all the great civilizations that we heard about, you must ask yourself, well, why did they end?
Ego.
Yeah, ego. Thank you. You saved me a lot of words when you say that. Ego.
Yeah.
And they could not go any further. They somehow destroyed themselves like this. Yes. Yeah. And it can happen on a personal or a national or international level, you see. Yeah. But always there are some pockets where there's more oxygen and other parts where there's more monoxide or, you know, dioxide, you see. But everything is breathing. And the place where there's more oxygen, meaning there's more spirit, there's more life, is actually supporting the weak limbs, where there's more heaviness, you see. That's compassion also.
So it's all in balance.
It's all
in balance.
In balance, yes.
Yeah.
And no human being can balance anything. Grace alone is balancing. Yeah. Even when we feel a human being steps out to it doesn't originate in the human form. It originates in a higher level of consciousness. From God, grace moves inside a form to then breathe life and to inspire those around to open up the oxygen of grace more and more like that. So it's all come from the Supreme Self.
Yeah. Still, when you moved here, the surroundings changed. You brought love and laughter and joy and freedom to this environment. Or didn't you do that?
Yes. Me as a person didn't do it. The grace of God did it, does it. Yeah. And the grace of God is not different from myself. Before I would think, oh yeah, you know, it's different and God is way, God, thank you. Can you hear me? But as the coarse, dense, egoic energy field thins away, one finds less self-reference as ego and personhood, selfishness. And there that's replaced or transformed into a field of love and understanding and compassion, wisdom come for any being, for every being. For every being, it's the possibilities there. And it's contagious because we are naturally attracted to love, you know. But if in the mind becomes too much based on pleasure and selfishness, then you will miss that love. You don't see it. You may even react against love. This is what we call the play of darkness, like this. Yeah. Initially. Because if you're surrounded by love for a long time, also the hatred goes. If you have a bucket of dirty water, okay, and you keep pouring clean water on it, at first it just seems like the clean water become dirty, but you keep on pouring, after a while the whole thing become clean, like that.
Yeah. A Dutch teacher, Alexander Smith, once said, "We are love looking for itself."
Yes.
Do you agree with him?
In India, there's a term which says like God is like a beautiful woman in search of a clear mirror in order to enjoy her beauty. It's the same thing another way. You know, all over the world, we are saying same things, just in different ways.
Yeah.
But if we are too rigid, you think, oh no, they're like this, no, they're wrong. And no, if we are smart and love and grace brings out our smartness, our wisdom, we can say, actually, you know, God is in every religion, in every nation, in every person. God is there, only to be discovered.
Yeah, it doesn't hide.
No, it doesn't hide. The ego hides.
Yeah. Maybe we can wrap up with a question by Joke. It's a Dutch name. She was wondering if you could tell the story of the three birds once again.
Ah.
Do you know what she means?
I know what she means, but title is wrong. It's not three birds. It's two birds.
Oh, two birds.
And the source of the two birds. It's a good one to talk about. It's a good one because many people can. It's very relatable story that is also an enlightenment opportunity for people. So I say like this: imagine that at the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean, there's a tree there, and on one branch there's a bird. It's just in the middle of, it's building a nest because it has some babies and it's completing its nest. So every now and again it flies off to go and find food for the baby, some worms and so on. And then shortly after it comes back and it's feeding the baby, and it's feeding the baby. And it's very active, building the nest, looking after the baby, making sure that the wind is all these things. And we say that we call the first bird, and the first bird represents our life in the world, having graduated or studied or have a job, and now you get married, you have a family, you're taking care of your family, you're looking for your future to raise your children, all these things is the first bird, and everybody can relate to it. Even if you don't have a family, our goal is to reach somewhere, to do better in your life. That's the first bird. It's busy. It's very trying to get his life right. Now, on a branch just above the first bird is another bird that looks very similar to the first bird. But this bird is not doing anything at all. It's not building anything. It just sits there like quietly looking. Quietly looking. Remember, first bird is babies, lots of activities, and I say this first bird represents our life in the world, going about finding a job, taking care of our family, looking to the future and so on. That's the first bird aspect. Second bird is sitting just above and just quietly looking. Now, its view is much broader because the first bird is about looking for worms and feeding. So its view is very, very focused. The second bird is a much more open vista, much more open view. In his view is the second bird also, and the second bird's activities. But he just quietly is aware of them, okay? And it's aware of the environment, the wind and the rain. It's aware of every sensation is aware. But he's not actually doing anything. He's not even being aware in an active way. In his own silence, everything is revealed inside him, no? So I said, this second bird represents the aspect and possibility within us to be aware of life in all of its movement, to be aware of the senses and their activity, to be aware of thought, feeling, sensation, to be aware of sense of time and past, everything. It's a much more silent, stiller place. And I say, that second bird is inside the first bird. So one layer is active, doing all the things, but at a deeper place is what we call the second bird position, more contemplative, more meditative, more quiet. The second bird is not stressed at all. It just quietly sits inside its own awareness, and it's there. It's looking, but it's not watching. It's not watching like this, but everything is in its view. And then I ask people, can you be aware of these two aspects within ourselves, just using the bird story. And they say, yes, yes, yes. I say, okay, be in the second bird position. And you see, they don't have to leave their seats to go and sit on a tree. They immediately can relate, yeah, I'm just aware, I'm here, I'm listening to your talk, I'm watching, following you, I can follow that inside my being. I recognize the place of my self as awareness itself. How do you feel? Very, very peaceful. Is it possible for second bird and first bird to be seen as one wholeness? You say, yeah, yeah. Is it possible that in the midst of the activity, your second bird posture is still not disturbed? You say, yeah, I can see this, I can see this. Ah, okay. Then I say, what if the first bird and the second bird is inside a wider awareness? So, whoa, whoa, hold on a second, whoa, 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 second. I was just getting used to my second bird. I said, well, you're not creating second bird. It's already a possibility within you, isn't it? Now, even this second bird, there's awareness of even this second bird. And then you say, whoa, whoa, 1 second, you see. So I said, don't do anything. Just open to the possibility of this. And they come quiet again. And somehow you allow yourself to accept, okay, I cannot totally verify this, but of course, if you say first bird, there's a kind of an energetic picture. If you say second bird, there's a subtle energetic picture and awareness. And if you say that both are seen in a deeper space, which is not a bird, can you relate? And many have said, yes, but I cannot speak about that. And that place I'm speaking is the place of your sagehood. That's the place of pure. This is the God field. In fact, the second bird is also God field.
Yeah, and ultimately there are no two birds.
No, they're all expressions arising out of the unchanging.
Yeah.
It's like from the unchanging, the play of changes are happening and are perceived. The play of time moving appears and is happening. You see. And all of that experiencing is happening in what you may call in your waking state life. When you're awake, the consciousness arises, the functioning consciousness that manifests the world, and all of that is seen inside that consciousness, is seen. And at night time, the body gets tired and the consciousness closes shop, the shop of perceiving and experiencing, and itself subsides into oblivion. Yet you cannot admit to a break in your reality. You are one. So the states of being awake and of sleeping and of dreaming are like rotational states in that which is not rotating. There's nothing to try to figure out with the mind, because the figuring out mind also is perceived and also subsides also.
Yeah. Great. It was great talking to you again, Mooji. I still have a lot of questions, but I guess when the questions stop, the real teaching starts, right?
Actually, when the questions are responded to, and the response enters the heart, the unfolding of the awakening state has already begun.
Yeah, nice.
If the openness is maintained, in the posture of openness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I hope that your listeners or viewers also can not just enjoy, they can relate to what we speak about, because what I speak about, it's got nothing to do with Sahaja and me and you only. We're not speaking about two personalities. I'm speaking about universality, which is in everyone. So it's relatable across all the fields of seeming compartments and divisions. It transcends them and speak and points to that within us which is universal and which is compatible in us. and that in listening, and more than listening, applying your listening and to the point where you can verify it is so or it is not so. And so by verifying rather than just food for the intellect, it's actually a resonance in the heart. One finds that in such a simple way, one's life begins to enjoy a quality of harmony spontaneously. We're not building harmony. We're not even destroying this harmony. We're coming into understanding. And understanding happening in the heart is the most powerful blessing, I would say. No? Because transformation begins there. And transformation is not a sweaty business. Some aspects of our identity may feel challenged, but we should take that as a good sign. Sometimes people in satsang, they get, let's say, gatherings like this, they, after listening, and they're touched by something, and their lives go on fire. It's like something's burning. It's, oh. But something knows this is not a cruel burning. It's an auspicious burning. Like it's burning into, from something that feels very dense, it's burning and becoming just light and open and free and beautiful in the way that one begins to feel peace and joy without having to change your clothes and climbing a mountain. Just internally that change is happening. We don't have to do anything to our bodies externally. We don't have to do anything. For the real change I'm speaking about, you don't have to start changing and start to get into, difficult postures or sit in a cave, alone and stop eating certain things. No, just in understanding, transformation happens in an open heart. That's real. This is open heart surgery. But actually, nothing is being cut out. It's just the grace, the light of God shines inside, so to speak, and already you're feeling lightness. Anyone, actually, wherever you may be when you listen to this, pay attention. Don't go to your mind for any answers. Just pay attention to how your beingness feels. And you ought to be feeling a sort of some spaciousness, even though they might feel a certain amount of some kind of tension. Don't label that as bad. The tension can just mean that some old, tired concepts are being challenged and are being brought into the light, and some awkwardness is felt. Tolerate that. You have tolerated much worse than that. And this is at the bridge of transformation, and something wonderful, the most beautiful thing taking place. And just follow through. Remain open in your heart to the light of grace, open to God, open to, I say, consciousness, without having to analyze with words what that means. It's a very, it's something in us has to be a childlike. That the more simple you are, the more simple it is, The more complex, then the more hidden we are. So with this simplicity, just wherever you may be, just feel either by mouth or wordlessly that I open my heart to what is being shared here, and to continue to bring life back, joy, spontaneity, grace, love, forgiveness, freedom. And it's like this. And total faith in it.
And in the online retreat you're going to do in a couple of days, is there meditating? Is there silence? Is it different from...
All these things will happen even unplanned.
No agenda.
We have a structure that we'll have the retreat will take place maybe over, I don't know how many days, if you can remember, 5 days it will happen, one satsang per day. Each time I go and sit in a chair, just like I'm doing now with you, I don't have a plan of what should happen. I just have, I'm just here with you, and total faith that whatever happens is for the higher expression, for the higher life, And so I don't, all I can say, is grace is flowing. Grace is flowing. Meditation may happen. Silence will definitely happen inside the heart. Spaciousness, a sense of recovering from a sense of alienation within our hearts is very highly possible that will happen. And always that it's taking place in a field of love. Even if the mind feels challenged, if ego comes up very strongly, just offer it all to the light of grace. Yeah, all is good.
I brought this picture. Of course you know it.
Very well.
It's what does this man mean to you?
What this man means to me is Sri Ramana Maharshi is like an opening in the world where this light of grace, of God's grace, of pure consciousness is flowing out into the world like this.
And how come this picture, or most pictures of this man, are so powerful that some people tell me they only have to look at this picture and they...
Yes.
How is that possible?
And because it's the light that is pouring through that form is actually very compatible, find compatibility with the natural light. It's as though it triggers the light opening inside people also. And, you know, of course, it's not just the physical form introduces something. It carries the vibration somehow of that light. The light is not something that's visible. It's visible in the invisible world to us, but at the same time, it testifies to a capacity within us, even in a gross form, in a much more dense form, to appreciate and to experience the reflection of that light in the world happening inside ourselves, like that, yes.
And brought another picture, I'm guessing you know him also?
Yes, that's a picture you're showing me now of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, also a great light also. And again, I have many sages who I don't know what I can say about. They are you can say the embodiment of that universal consciousness. Yeah. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj is at a different expression, but the same source, you know. And I would say more than light, you know. He's at the source of that light, and testifies to the capacity within the human potential to actually transcend the field of mere embodied existence. By embodied existence, I don't mean that it's wrong, embodied existence, but the attachment to and the identification with embodied existence. He had transcended that limitation here. Outwardly, he's just a very normal, regular guy, not a handsome guy at all, or nothing like that, smoking bidis and stuff. So this the self manifests in all these ways, because sometimes we see that, you know, especially sometimes with our Western mind and our love for beauty and so on, that even the mind wants to design its own guru, preferred looking guru, you know, that has to look like Jesus or to look like something like this, you know. And so the self, in a way, comes with great laughter and strangeness, and could even be in the form of, there is one great master called Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra was one saint. Ashtavakra means like he's bent in 8 different ways, the body, no? So it comes in the form like this, like that. And so the usual way of thinking is that, oh, this person is not really a person at all. He's a strange character or whatever. Yeah. But in that form, the pure light is radiating. The formless light was radiating tremendously, you see, for that period of time, you know, like this. So we cannot limit the light to a form and say, oh, the form is what the light is. The light shone through it. Any more than you can say the light is coming from the lampshade. No, the shade is the casing. The light is coming. The light is It's formless, but it's appearing through a particular form of a lampshade or something like that. You know?
Yeah. And how come when I read this book, I Am That, in Dutch, I wanted to underscribe everything and take pictures and Twitter and...
Because Sri Maharaj's language is so direct, it's so clear, it's so unfluffy. No? It's like, poof, if you have the openness to read, it was like a mirror. The mirror does not give you opinions. It just reflects, you know? And he's reflecting back the purity of the self, you know. And in speaking the way he does, he's in somehow dethroning the ego mind, which he doesn't take to be anything. He just says, oh, you give too much importance to that. It's not at all.
Maybe finally you can tell us something more about Papaji. Yeah, what was he like? I saw some videos on YouTube. Could you laugh a lot with him?
With Papaji, you laugh and cry.
At the same time.
And sometimes same time. But underneath this, he's you cannot pin him down to any particular shape, you know. Many people say, oh, this is a picture of Papaji, it's a picture of Ramana, picture. Papaji is very
unique.
All are unique. Everyone is unique. Everyone is unique. The more you come close to seeing anyone, you see uniqueness. It's like if you see a lot of people, they may all look like, oh, all Chinese or something. But as you go closer, each one is unique. You see, isn't it? And a master allows you to see the uniqueness of the one. The one is unique. In each body, he is unique in his expression, like that. Yeah. And Papaji is playful, sharp, wise, direct.
Yeah, great. Is there one book that you recommend by him? Is that book, Nothing Ever Happened, or is there some book your favorite of him?
I think there's a book also. I mean, all of them is good. The one I would say, Fire for Freedom is nice. I like this one.
Fight for Freedom.
Fire for Freedom.
Fire for Freedom.
Yes, Fire for Freedom is good. All of them are giving different moments of his expression. No? The same with Sri Maharaj, Sri Satya Maharaj. He has some books. I Am That is the most popular. But he had he moved even more refined in later talks, with smaller books, but much more direct also. He's saying, how can anything be more direct than, you know, I am that? But I feel the more fine he became, more simple he became, the less students he had. And this is a paradox. The more simple and direct the master become, the less the mind can survive in that climate. So then you maybe find less beings there. You see, that's the way of the world, even at Maharaj's time. The more the master gives space, that doesn't mean that he's less, but gives space for, you know, gradually integrating the minds of the diverse range of followers, and have time to even advise them about their daily lives and so on, which is also very, you know, the expression of the self, the more people you will have around. But as soon as the teaching becomes direct, ding, hardly anybody's there. You know, physically or spiritually, they're all gone. Yeah. Either they physically go, or their egos are gone.
Yeah. Isn't that a shame then? Because then it gets down to it.
It's an indicator of how much the world is able to embrace the purest reflection of what the world really means. Yeah. Yeah. It's fine, because there are certain point I feel that everyone, as you come out of the toxic ego, you enter into heavenly realms. You qualify for heavenly realms. You know, you will not go to hell.
But isn't that why they put Jesus on a cross? Was it too much for the world, the light he brought?
The world did not determine whether Jesus would be on a cross. God determined that.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not easy. It's not easy to go into that way. Okay. Superficially, if we look from the perspective of the world, we did this thing. It was an act that had to happen. I look at everything in the world as an act that has to happen to give a certain amount of expression to the light. Finds its expression for a while, and then it withdraws and let the world live in that juice for a while. And many people then came because Jesus's ministry might have been for, maybe, I don't know, maybe the full ministry, the most poignant ministry might have been for 3 or 4 years, where it was full on. And of course, maybe even many of his disciples did not realize the fullness of who he was while he was with them physically. But afterwards, millions of people came. Understand? So it's not necessary for the master to be in the body, because now, after 2,000 and odd years since the physical body of Jesus was not here, there are still people becoming Christians today. The holy prophet of Islam, 1,400 years ago, or whatever, left the body. Still Muslims are coming today. Buddha, 2,500 years ago, still people are joining. What are they having a relationship with?
Yeah, the being itself.
The being itself, beyond its physical manifestation, like that. You see.
But still, in a few weeks, you're getting a year older in the story, right? End of January. Do you still celebrate your birthday, or?
If it was for myself, whatever that is, I don't mind. No. But I really generally don't like, at least don't like the way we celebrate birthdays. I think people should really reflect what it means. Is it the birthday of ego or the birthday of your awakening? We should at least contemplate a bit more. And not just take things at face value. It's not time for drinking wine and getting drunk and making a lot of noise. We don't do that. I prefer that we're more, reflective if we can, at least to invite people into a deeper reflection. Even at Christmas, yes, we celebrate a little bit, but don't go too far, We look more at the inner meaning of what it means, Christmas. I call it Christmas, but what it means, and we give people more chance to go inside with it rather than outside. The mind wants to go outside, but the heart calls you to be inside a bit and to contemplate a bit, make use of this day like that.
But still the symbols of the light that has come, and
the light is always here.
Oh, it doesn't have to come.
Well, it just manifests more brightly here and there, but the light is always here. There's nothing can exist without the light. Yeah. But when it shines very brightly, like the light is always here, but like electricity is here, but you can't see it at the moment. You put the switch on, and so your dimmer switch turn it really bright. Like Christ is like a bright light.
Yeah.
But all our bulbs, everyone is here. The light, the electricity is in everybody. And then somehow it's turned up by grace so that everybody can see and say, oh. Yeah? Some don't like the light, like, oh. Then after a while it takes the time to adjust to the light and so on, like that.
Thanks again.
Thank you.